DD2 now heads out onto the circuit for the final time this weekend and this season. Your grid is as follows. On the front row, starting from pole position, it is the 4:33 of Florian Breidenbach, with the 4:22 of Oliver Breidenbach just alongside. Now, just keeping my eyes on the timing screens as some of the drivers making their way through. Ronny Göttler, and just keeping my eyes on, hasn't come through on the timing screens. Hannes Border will start on effectively what will be fourth place, could be third, ahead of Jonas Wolscheid. Marco Göttler in the 4:94, ahead of Dennis Thiem in the 4:04, with Jana Stier in the 444, rounding out the top 8, ahead of Yannick Jacobs in the 4:11, Mark Bartels in the 4:88, Tim Stender in the 4:09, Max Fleischmann in the 4:07, and Niklas Kreens bringing up the rear of the field in the 4:31. So the drivers get themselves ready for one final time this year at Rotax Max Challenge Germany. DD2 about to go into battle for the next 14 minutes plus an additional lap. They split, they go into the tram lines. The revs rise as they press the accelerators hard to the floor, lights out, and they are racing. As there was a bit of a skirmish going into turn one, a little bit towards the back part of the order. But two of the drivers that have already made a considerable inroads, Max Fleischmann and also Niklas Kreens. So they look to have jumped up a little bit up the order as the field makes its way down towards the far side of the circuit. Startnummer 303, Timika Metz zur Waage. Startnummer 303, Timika Metz, sofort zur Waage. Danke. So with just over 13 and a quarter minutes still to go in this final DD2 race of the season, everyone streaming their way across the line. Jonas Wolscheid, unfortunately, down at the back part of the field as there was a bit of a skirmish going through turn one for the first time. But at the moment, it is Florian Breidenbach leading Oliver Breidenbach, Hannes Border up into third, Dennis Thiem up into fourth, Max Fleischmann and Niklas Kreens now up into fifth and sixth respectively, ahead of the 4:88 of Mark Bartels. Marco Göttler in eighth, Yannick Jacobs in ninth, and that was where I think the trouble sort of started a little bit. So Tim Stender rounds out the top 10 ahead of Jana Stier in the 444, Jonas Wolscheid trying to close up in the 4:20. I think might have been released out of the pre-grid. But Florian Breidenbach already has a lead of 0.693 seconds over Oliver Breidenbach, who is being pressurised by Hannes Border, who looks to finish on a high note. So the 4:68 now in third place, looking to strike, and was just under a quarter of a second adrift of the 4:22 after the completion of the second lap of the race. And at the minute, these drivers are pushing. And they will do so right up until the end of the season. But at the moment, Florian Breidenbach looks to have possibly extended that lead even further, crossing the line to complete lap number 3. Gap now, 0.974. Border in third, Dennis Thiem in fourth. Niklas Kreens has now got past Max Fleischmann for fifth position and looks to charge forward. He's got Dennis Thiem in the 4:04 just up ahead. As they now come down the back straightaway, Kreens looking to close at a considerable rate of knots and looks to do so. Does he go up the inside? Not on this, yes he does on this particular occasion. So Niklas Kreens up through into fourth place. Fleischmann now has Dennis Thiem in his line of sight. Looks like Jana Stier now is up into 10th place ahead of Tim Stender. Jonas Wolscheid completing the 12 that are still running, and it was I don't even think that Ronnie Göttler made it out onto the grid. So it's been confirmed as a retirement, not even making the start. But the gap at the front of the field has started to extend as the rest of the field hurdle their way towards the far part of the circuit. So Thiem, Fleischmann, Bartels very closely packed. That's by around about 0.8 of a second, not even that. Well, I look out of the left-hand side of the commentary box and I see Fleischmann battling away with Bartels behind and Thiem in front. And so Max Fleischmann has that dilemma and looks briefly the left side of the nose, trying to look up the inside there of Dennis Thiem, but he thought discretion is the better part of valor. Pulled back in behind into single file through the racing line. But then Mark Bartels is giving Max Fleischmann the hurry up, going through the chicane. Right on the back bumper is the 488 on the 407 as they go down the back straightaway. Bartels up the inside of Fleischmann. Now takes the position, so that drops Fleischmann down into 7th place. And in the meantime, it has been an absolute binge of speed for one Niklas Krenz, who has been setting faster laps than anybody on the circuit, and has set the fastest lap of the race last time around. He put in a 46.032. And now is going after Oliver Breidenbach. Now with 9 minutes and 10 seconds to go on the clock, the pace that Niklas Krenz has shown this weekend tells me this. If he gets past Oliver Breidenbach, he will absolutely go for it. He will leave no stone unturned. Probably leave no rubber on those tyres, as now he goes up the inside to take 2nd place off of Oliver Breidenbach. Now the chase begins. But consider this, Hannes Border is not too far behind either, just on the back bumper of the 422 of Oliver Breidenbach. So let's see if Niklas Krenz can start pulling away. He already has. The gap between Krenz and Breidenbach went to nearly 0.3 of a second after he made the overtake of the far part of the circuit through the hairpin. So Niklas Krenz he's done the fastest lap of anybody, a 45.850 on the completion of lap 6. Florian Breidenbach, I've just noticed, has started responding. And this is where it comes in. Oh, Tim Stender has a bit of a moment. The back end steps out to the left-hand side, heading into the chicane. A little bit of grass trimming via the rear Mojo tyres. Stender gets back out on the circuit and keeps circulating. So the gap this time between 1st and 2nd is 2.621 seconds. And that time Niklas Krenz only did a 46.1 exactly. Florian Breidenbach did a 49.934. So on the last 2 laps, Florian Breidenbach has been running at a consistent pace. And over the last 3 laps, it's been no higher than a low 46.0 and no lower than a high 45.8. Dennis Thiem has unfortunately lost out and has dropped down from 6th to 8th place as a result of Max Fleischmann and Yannick Jacobs now getting past the 4.04. So the gap between 1st and 2nd was 2.6 seconds. It's now 2.775. As Breidenbach again goes into the mid 45.9s on that particular occasion. So in many respects, that could be the case that Florian Breidenbach will try and just keep that gap. And it is quite a big one between him and Niklas Krenz in the 431. So all 12 drivers, which includes a very lonesome Jonas Volscheid in the 420 at the back part of the field. Startnummer 303, Tim Mikametz, sofort beim Race Control. Tim Mikametz, 303, sofort beim Race Control. Danke. So with 6 minutes of the season still to go here in DD2, plus an additional lap, Florian Breidenbach has been a cut above the rest of the competition. We could have seen some great displays this weekend from the likes of Jan Stier, the likes of Niklas Kreins, the likes of Mark Bartels, Max Fleischmann. The names of lists I could probably roll off my tongue would be pretty much quite a few of the field. However, it has been the consummate performance from Florian Breidenbach that has really shown to the rest of the field that when they started racing at Mullerton, Breidenbach said, well, I'm going to put myself in the mix, and has started to make sure that determination, that drive, that will to win has succeeded above all else. A lot of sacrifice through families, through the team, through the mechanic that spends hours and hours on the kart getting it ready and prepared to the best standard possible to allow a driver to have a race-winning vehicle underneath them, and that has been the case for Breidenbach. Kreins in second, and the gap is now 2.96 seconds. Oliver Breidenbach in third is still hanging on in the 422. He's about 1.2 seconds behind Kreins, but then you look behind and then you've got Mark Bartels, Hannes Border. Well, Bartels has now passed Hannes Border for fourth place in the process. Max Fleischmann is also showing a good turn. He's been running anywhere between the high 46.0s and the nearly high 46.1s over the last 3 laps. And that's where the dynamic of this race starts to change a little bit, because Breidenbach has gotten off into the distance, nearly 3.3 seconds adrift of Niklas Kreins. So it is Oliver Breidenbach, Mark Bartels, Hannes Border, Max Fleischmann and Yannick Jacobs. That is from 3rd to 7th. That could all factor in to getting a top 3 position in the final race of the season. And that would be pretty much a confidence and motivational boost for those drivers, as now Bartels has closed once again. The gap was just under 3/10 between the 488 and the 422 of Bartels and Oliver Breidenbach respectively. And now Bartels closing very quickly. Up the inside he goes, past Oliver Breidenbach to take third place through the hairpin. But Breidenbach starts fighting back, looks towards the inside through the next right-hander. But Bartels very quickly and very neatly cuts across the front with an absolute minuscule margin to keep third place. That was a great little dice between the duo. And now Bartels has started pulling away. And that's quite a considerable gap in just around about 60 seconds or so that Mark Bartels has now got over Oliver Breidenbach. When they crossed the line last time, it was nearly 0.6 of a second. Hannes Border not too far behind Oliver Breidenbach. And then you've got Max Fleischmann and Yannick Jacobs. So with the way that Mark Bartels now pulling away, starting to get a few more laps under his belt and push forward, have a bit of clean air. That's one key thing for drivers. And the gap now between Bartels and Oliver Breidenbach is just over 5.5 tenths of a second, 0.584. It's 2 tenths between Oliver Breidenbach and Hannes Border. And Border looks to be closing. Fleischmann, you can't count out of it. Yannick Jacobs looks to be a little bit further adrift, but could start to close. But we've only got 2 minutes of this season plus 1 lap in DD2 remaining. Gap now between Florian Breidenbach and Niklas Kreins extends to nearly 4 seconds after 15 laps. Lap 16 about to be completed by the leader. And the gap now is 4.139 seconds as Bartels still in third, but then Border, Breidenbach, that's Oliver Breidenbach, Max Fleischmann and Yannick Jacobs again getting very close with less than 90 seconds remaining. So Bartels has scampered off into the distance, and Border gets past Oliver Breidenbach for 4th place. Fleischmann now has an opportunity to get past and go up into 5th. They go into the hairpin. Tight line taken by all 4 drivers, so Border, Oliver Breidenbach, Max Fleischmann and Yannick Jacobs, all taking the safe option. What we want to see in the last race, with some drivers knowing that they can't go for the title, they will go for broke. They will go for it and they'll push it to the limit of adhesion. but they'll do it with controlled, ruthless aggression. And still, Hannes Border leading that four-cart train with Oliver Breitenbach, Max Fleischmann and Dennis Thiem, Yannick Jacobs just behind. Dennis Thiem a little bit further behind by about 2.2 seconds. So with 11 seconds on the clock, Florian Breitenbach completes the 18th lap here. So we go on to effectively the 19th and penultimate lap of this race, and also the penultimate lap of the 2020 racing season. It all comes down to this. And when I just look back between Border, Oliver Breitenbach, Max Fleischmann and Yannick Jacobs, the gap between the quartet was just under 8.5 tenths of a second. That's how close it can get. I've seen it get even closer. Fleischmann will have an opportunity, I think, if he gets close enough to Oliver Breitenbach, who in turn is closing on Hannes Border. Through, up into the hairpin, back through for fourth place goes Oliver Breitenbach. Hannes Border tries to counter-attack and instantly goes up the inside. The pair clash side pods, and that allows Max Fleischmann to get up the inside of Oliver Breitenbach. Yannick Jacobs gets a little bit of breathing space to try and get through, but can't get past. Final lap board of the season for DD2, which has already been taken by the top 9 drivers, including Marco Göttler in the 494 and Janos Stier in the 444. So Florian Breitenbach now just corners away from taking another well-deserved victory. After 20 laps of racing action, there is still places to be decided in terms of positions. But now, Florian Breitenbach, the 433, comes round the final corner and takes victory in the last race of the season. Niklas Kreins takes second, a very spirited drive from the 431, as it was from Mark Bartels in third place. Hannes Border takes fourth as Max Fleischmann manages to get past Oliver Breitenbach in the dying stages of the final lap to take fifth. Well, Oliver Breitenbach in the 422 takes sixth ahead of Yannick Jacobs, Dennis Thiem, Marco Göttler. Janos Stier rounds out the top 10. Jonas Volscheid crossed the line in 12th position, a lap down off the leaders, but Tim Stender now comes round the final corner and will take 11th place with 12 drivers completing the full race distance.